Hey, welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified YouTube channel. My name is Salvador Briggman, and on this video, I want to talk about some of the alternatives out there to Kickstarter. So Kickstarter is obviously one of the bigger crowdfunding websites. If you're trying to raise money for a creative project, you're trying to raise money for a new physical product, maybe you've invented something, for example, a board game or a gadget, a gizmo, something that's a fashion-related product. You guys are so creative. I love it. That's one of the things I love working with my community. We have engineers in the community. We have people who are just brilliant when it comes to UI and design. So a lot of cool stuff, right, when it comes to this community. So I've been in this industry since 2012. I also have other websites out there like crowdcrux.com, kickstarterforum.org. I have a Facebook group with more than 10,000 members on it, right? So I've been exposed a lot when it comes to Kickstarter. However, you'll be surprised, I actually don't work for Kickstarter, right? I actually don't work for any major platform that's out there. So I kind of want to give you an unbiased review on some of the other sites that are available to you, some of the differences, some of the pros and cons. Let's get into it into this video. Hope you enjoy it, and it's coming up right after this. Okay, man, so welcome back. If you've been one of those loyal viewers every single week, I really appreciate you. Give me a thumbs up so that other people know that this content is worth their time. However, if you're new, oh man, you are in for a lot of good content, my friend. I've got so many great videos out there on my YouTube channel, whether you're tuning in the United States, I'm, for example, in Miami, Florida, or if you're in New York, you're in California, wherever you are in the world, or if you're in Europe, Australia, right, Canada, wherever it is, I hope that the magic of crowdfunding can help you get that funding that you need for your projects, for your life, for the things that you're trying to do, and I hope that I can also help you a little bit throughout that process. Okay, so first of all, Kickstarter falls into the rewards-based category when it comes to crowdfunding. So what are some of the other sites out there that might be similar? The biggest one, in my opinion, is Indiegogo. So we actually see a lot of Indiegogo campaigns that are very similar to Kickstarter campaigns because of the Indiegogo in-demand program, which allows you to raise money after a traditional crowdfunding campaign. That crowdfunding campaign could be on Indiegogo, or it could be on Kickstarter, and then you port that campaign over to Indiegogo and enter the Indiegogo in-demand program. So Indiegogo is very popular for their in-demand feature. They're also very popular, in my opinion, for other categories like comics. They're also very popular when it comes to hardware and technology projects, and also a lot more enterprise companies are starting to use Indiegogo based on their outreach. So Indiegogo is another alternative to Kickstarter. They have very similar fee structure. Their community, I would say, is not necessarily as large as Kickstarter's, but it is a very healthy, very thriving community on Indiegogo.com. In my opinion, the biggest pros of doing an Indiegogo campaign is the fact that you can do what's called flexible funding, which is also keep what you raise model. So for example, if you have a $10,000 funding goal on Kickstarter, you gotta hit or you gotta exceed that amount. On Indiegogo, you can raise $5,000 and you can actually still keep those funds. That's one big major difference. Another major difference is there's different little elements of functionality when it comes to, for example, having a secret perk, being able to upload images to your perks. There's a little bit of granular differences when it comes to functionality of Indiegogo, but I would say the biggest third major one is the fact that the Indiegogo team is more business-centric, in my opinion. So by that, I mean they're more a little bit aggressive about, for example, trying to provide marketing services, trying to help you rank better if you hit a certain amount by a certain time. They're kind of willing to work with you. There's some deals that happen behind the scenes I'm not going to mention on this channel, right? When it comes to Indiegogo, in my opinion, they're a little bit more profit-centric and a little bit more business-minded. Kickstarter is much more creative when it comes to their internal team, in my opinion. They're also a little bit more leaning in that way. They're much more about what they're interested in, what they're curating for when it comes to their platform, and they're a little bit more difficult to access historically when it comes to their team. The next site I want to mention is called Patreon. Now, I've actually had tons of people on my podcast, the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast, as well as students and course members and clients as well, who have transitioned from doing a Kickstarter campaign to then going into Patreon. So that's actually why I want to put out more and more videos on Patreon, right, when it comes to this and teach more about that topic. But Patreon, you think of this as subscription-based crowdfunding. So what do I mean by that? With Kickstarter and Indiegogo, it's called rewards-based crowdfunding. So you're doing one mega campaign. You're getting one big lump sum of cash, right? So that could be, for example, raising 100K or 250K or 300K or more on a Kickstarter or Indiegogo campaign, right? When you do Patreon, what ends up happening is that you're actually raising money on an ongoing basis, on a monthly or on a per creation basis. So every single month, you have these patrons that are supporting the creation of your art, of your podcast, of your YouTube videos, of whatever it is that you're are making your blog post, right? They're supporting the creation of that on a monthly basis. So that could be between $5 to $15. I'd say $5 to $25 is kind of the average amount when it comes to Patreon. I have a great book as well out there about Patreon. There's sort of tricks for launching a Patreon campaign, which I will link up down below if you want to learn more about that. That's actually been doing super well recently. So if you are interested, you can learn more about that down below. But Patreon is another alternative to Kickstarter. So why would you do a Patreon? You would mainly do it if you don't want to just raise money, like I said, in one big lump sum, but instead you want to consistently build up a stream of income, an alternative stream of income. You want to release sneak peeks or other kinds of private content behind a locker with your Patreon campaign, and you're trying to raise money from smaller donors. So people are between 5 to 25 versus on Kickstarter, you could see around 50. With some campaigns, you see much higher, like 250, depending on the price of the product, right? It's going to be a little bit more when it comes to Kickstarter. Want to take all the stress out of fulfilling your Kickstarter rewards? Fulfillrite is the turnkey solution that puts product delivery on autopilot. The top campaigns use this trusted high-tech provider to store, package, and ship their products. Focus on growing your business. Leave shipping to the experts. Don't wait. Get a custom quote from Fulfillrite today. Link in the description. The third website that I want to mention is GoFundMe. So GoFundMe is really for people that are trying to raise money for charitable endeavors. Nonprofits to a degree will also use GoFundMe. This is you're trying to raise money for more of like a Fund My Life kind of a crowdfunding campaign, or if you have a particular need, for example, education costs, memorial bills, things that come when it comes to travel costs, volunteer costs, all those kinds of things that go outside the scope of a specific project. Typically, people will run a GoFundMe campaign for that. So the big difference between Kickstarter and GoFundMe I usually talk about is, are you going to be producing some kind of an end product with your project? In that case, you're probably going to be doing more of a Kickstarter or Indiegogo, right? If you're producing this on a frequent basis, like YouTube videos or blog posts, right, where you have a membership community, you're probably more so transitioning into the Patreon category. However, if you're doing more charity related stuff or raising money for, not really an end kind of project or any kind, or it's more like related to your education bill or something like that, you're probably going to be doing GoFundMe. The next platform that I wanted to mention, and I'm actually giving these guys a shout out because they also reached out to me on Instagram. If you don't know, I am on Instagram, my friends. You can actually search me at, I think it's crowdcrux.salvador.briggman, and they reached out about reposting some of my content also my TikTok. I put out content on TikTok now. So Seed and Spark is actually a great platform that I've known about for a while. So Seed and Spark is really geared towards creative types in the film category. At least that's how they got started, helping people produce that kind of content and doing it in a very unique way. They have a much more of a hand-holding approach when it comes to that. They are what I would call more of a niche crowdfunding website, and there are a few. So if you are, for example, doing something more in the way of film, where you have a very specific niche which you're trying to raise money for, in that case, I do think it makes sense to look at some of the other alternative crowdfunding websites. However, what are you sacrificing? You're sacrificing a bigger community. However, in response to that sacrifice, you might actually be getting a little bit more hand-holding. Kind of along that same frame when it comes to Seed and Spark, there are also other crowdfunding websites that are geographically based. So for example, crowdfunding websites that are in China, crowdfunding websites that are in Japan, crowdfunding websites that are in Australia, thinking about Possible, right? There's so many different other crowdfunding websites that are also based in region. There are also Canadian crowdfunding websites. I've actually had coaching students that have been successful on Canadian crowdfunding platforms, as well as clients. So I'm getting just excited because it's so happy, I feel so happy the fact that we can have international students, international viewers, people being successful all over the world. It's one of the coolest things as a coach, as a mentor, as someone who's helping other people on this path. So as you can tell, there are many different crowdfunding websites, in comparison to Kickstarter. So first of all, I'm going to link down below as well to more of a comprehensive list, but I did want to mention a couple of other things on this video. So I'm going to mention 2 other major options, and then we're going to wrap up this video. I want to share with you also a very valuable resource for anyone out there that is trying to do a crowdfunding campaign. So the other thing I want to mention is that if you are doing a crowdfunding campaign and you want to do something similar to Kickstarter, but a little bit different, this is going to be the biggest difference for people out there that want to give away equity in their company. So they're not just looking to do like a pre-order campaign on Kickstarter or just raise money or, create something for other people. They want to give those backers also a share of equity in their company in some way, right? So they almost are looking for investors more than backers or people that are pre-ordering their product. If that sounds like you, listen up, because the next 2 great options are going to be wefunder.com and startengine.com. These are 2 what are called regulation crowdfunding portals or equity crowdfunding websites. And you can launch a campaign on these, and also you can have perks and rewards as well. And people can actually invest in your your company. This is under regulation crowdfunding, which was recently passed, and also the limits were recently raised as a part of the Jobs Act. So you can actually do what's called general solicitation. You can market this. You can actually market securities online, which is crazy insane, right? The fact you can do this nowadays, you can get investors, and they can literally invest if they wanted to, like $500 in your company. And it functions almost like a mini IPO, if you want to think of it that way. I have a great book out there called Equity Crowdfunding Explained, where I talk about all of this on Audible. And also a lot of my coaching students nowadays are doing wefunder campaigns and equity crowdfunding campaigns. So I coach on a lot of different subjects. If you want to learn more about that, you can always look at my links down below when it comes to booking a one-on-one individual coaching call where we go intensive into what you're trying to do when it comes to your campaign. The final option that I want to mention, I'm throwing a lot at you guys, but I want to deliver a ton of value, is I also have students who are doing a pre-order or a crowdfunding campaign privately on their own website. Right? Mind blown when it comes to doing that. So this is someone who's like, Sal, I'm looking at these platforms, I'm looking at Kickstarter, I'm looking at Indiegogo, I'm looking at all these ones that you're mentioning, you're throwing out there, and I just don't want to pay the fees, right? And I have the actual budget to invest in the technology to kind of build my own crowdfunding website, and I want to do it on my own website. And I'll be responsible for driving the marketing traffic, I'll be responsible for handling all of the orders, doing the processing there, I'll be responsible for setting up everything when it comes to the technology. I will handle all that, and I want to do it on my own website. I also have people that are interested in doing that. So I would say that is the final option when it comes to this. However, for those of you that are looking to get started when it comes to a crowdfunding campaign, I have a very valuable resource for you. That resource, first of all, is the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast, which I've been publishing regularly every single week since 2015, bringing on real world examples, people that are raising money in all of these categories on a weekly basis, and they're in the trenches right now. So go and check out the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast on iTunes. In addition, I have a great newsletter which I send out weekly called Killer Crowdfunding Tips, where I share some of my cutting edge podcast episodes that I'm publishing every single week, and you actually get access to these before I publish them on YouTube. So go and check out the Killer Crowdfunding Tips newsletter at crowdcrux.com/newsletter down below. And I also include a couple of other links for those of you that are interested in getting started with crowdfunding when it comes to my books and those other resources which can help you as sort of a tool in your toolbox. Lastly, no matter where you are, what the demographics are of your past, the things you've tried to do in the past as well, it does not matter what your story is. I'm telling you, you could be successful with crowdfunding as long as you are following a proven path. As long as you understand the science, the methodology, the mechanics behind it, you can be successful. And even if you're like, you know what, Sal, I don't think I can do this myself, you can always hire help along the way. So I hope that you enjoyed this YouTube video. And if you did, give me a thumbs up. Come subscribe to this channel for more content just like this. I put out videos regularly every single week. Hope you enjoyed it. Take some action this week, and I will see you next time.